there, everyone, Hail Stalkers. We are back. Meteorologist Martin Lown here with HailTrace. We have a special guest today, Lindsay Bowman, the chair of Oklahoma for the NWIR.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys as well. You having a great time here so far?
I am.
It's been a very wild one across Oklahoma the past couple of days, hasn't it?
It has. It's been very wet.
It's been wet, and unfortunately, I haven't had a ton of hail, especially where you're at.
Yes, not at all.
So tell us a little bit about NWIR.
Well, National Women in Roofing, we connect women with empowering mentorship and helping them excel in their careers.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, we have a luncheon today. We have a bunch of meetings. What are you hoping to get out of today?
Just a lot of knowledge. We love knowledge, learning how you guys get your information and sending it to us so that we can do an amazing job for our clients.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to be having that luncheon. We'll be having some more posts later today talking about what they got to see over there. I believe you guys are going to be talking with John Chiquette, right? Yes. I'm a big fan of John. Okay. John and me are good friends. So it's going to be a good time over there. So Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on today. We're going to get back to the forecast right just in a second.
All right, thank you.
And let's get to that forecast as well, because we are still looking at another day for severe weather. If my graphics will allow me to advance, that would be awesome, actually. Will it allow me? I guess we're not going to be able to advance graphics. There we go. So, of course, we're going to start off with our weather headlines. We are going to be seeing severe weather in two sections of the country. We'll be seeing the best chance for severe weather in those two sections of the country. When you see the map, a lot of people are under that severe weather risk for today. And it is for mostly hail and a little bit of that wind and a small little bit of the tornado. So we're going to break that down in just a little bit. Your hail timeline showing the first couple of those storms around that 2 to 3 time frame around Central Time. So over Mountain Time, closer maybe 1 to 2-ish or so. And then as we get into our weekend, we are expecting a very large pattern shift as we get into our weekend. We're going to see these storms really diving up north as a high pressure begins to settle in. And all of us in that high pressure, I am sorry, summer is about to come in full force. So let's talk about our last couple 24 hours. We did have another 3-star. It's actually just came in not too long ago. I was kind of expecting this to happen. Despite it being a very rural area, we saw some ginormous hail in the panhandle of Oklahoma. Several severe thunderstorm warnings that got over through parts of the panhandle, and also had a tornado that was associated with it. But this right here, this warning was warned for 4-inch hail. That's over softball-sized hail, and it went right through Boise City. They had reports of up to 3-inch hail there in the city. So a lot did occur, and despite Boise City being a pretty rural and small town in the western fringes of the Panhandle, we still decided to give it a 3-star map due to the massive amount of very large hail that was seen in the city. Now, despite that, we did have a couple more clusters of storms that tried to make their way into Oklahoma City proper. The one thing I also want to note, we had 2 warnings here, not for hail, but for wind. This report right here near Slayton, Texas, 110 miles an hour. Yeah, that might be the fastest straight line wind report we've had so far this year. Actually, I think we had another one of 113. Despite it, 110, 113, that is a wild wind report. It looked like it was from a downburst, which is where you have just a large pocket of cold air and just basically falls down and just causes an extreme amount of wind across that area of effect. Now, of course, we also had near Plainview, 85-mile-an-hour wind gusts there. These storms died out very quickly as they got into Lubbock. So we did have a little bit of small hail, but nothing super impactful as we got through the rest of that Thursday. So let's take a look at your current conditions. We have got these storms from yesterday making their way across the Midwest. The Cardinals game got delayed yesterday, and I'm thinking it might get delayed again today. So if you want to watch that game, I apologize. But more of these storms that are moving their way across the Ohio River Valley. We're going to have more redevelopment coming in later today, and also development up in the Great Basin area. So we'll talk more in just a little bit about that. So your severe weather outlook, like I said, we have areas that could be seeing these storms. It's actually a new update right here. They've updated this and expanded out this slight risk all the way from Billings down south of Denver. Now, unfortunately, Denver, you're outside of that risk. They also did expand this a little bit as well. This only went to about maybe just into Cape Girardeau, but now they've got it stretching all the way past Tulsa. So we'll see what the reasoning is for that in just a moment. And they've also given a slight risk over toward areas in Burlington, just north of Boston. And they've added more on the slight risk. Man, they did a lot with this update that just came out a few minutes ago. Wow, they really did. But as we get into tomorrow, we're again seeing that shift of the severe weather going to our north. Got Bismarck just outside of Billings, just north of Rapid City. The severe threat's going to be hugging the Canadian border for the next several days because we're going to be planting a big high pressure in the southeast. That's going to be pretty much stopping all severe weather across most of the south. And this is what we're seeing for that Sunday. Again, just staying up there across Montana, moving its way into Minnesota as we get into our Monday. Maybe could clip Minneapolis for that Monday, but it's just not going to be going anywhere. We're going to be staying up in the north, and this high pressure is to blame. As we watch this high pressure really building in to the southeast, this is just going to divert all those storms up into the northern plains, that Great Basin, all the way up until maybe trying to get close to Lake Superior. But for the most part, we're just going to be seeing these storms staying away from the south. It's just going to remain hot and humid. We're going to be just seeing very, very summer-like conditions. I think they said over 240 million people could be seeing temperatures over 90 degrees by the time we get into our middle of next week. I mean, look at this high pressure. This area of influence is just going to be this clockwise rotation here, pulling in hot air all the way up into the Canadian border, up into the Great Lakes. Again, Chicago, I believe, could reach up to 95 degrees by the time we get into the middle of our next week. The only places that could see storms, again, right in that Great Basin and northern plains for this next week. The wind forecast, again, this has been a bit of an update. Denver just on the cusp of that wind forecast down to Amarillo, Oklahoma City, Fayetteville, Arkansas. You could see more of these risks. We're going to shift over to the north where I think the best chance to see some of those high winds and hail will be today. We've got Billings and Rapid City included in that over in the Great Basin region. Moving over to the east coast again, Burlington up in Vermont, seeing that good chance of maybe seeing a little bit of wind, a little bit of hail. Kind of a little bit of everything, honestly. Louisville and Cape Girardeau also could see some of those storms. This threat stretches all the way to the east coast, including D.C. So a lot of this area could see these storms for today, give some pretty gusty winds. Tornado forecast now including Cape Girardeau all the way over into Louisville. This did not include Cape Girardeau earlier, but we're moving over to the north. Billings is included in this. And I also do want to show, because this is an update that I did not have on this graphic, but they have now included that little section. Man, why could I move the graph? There we go. If it will let me. A little bit of a tornado risk over in New Hampshire and Vermont as well. This is staying just to the north of Boston, kind of just clipping the northern Boston metro. So we are seeing that advancement, a little bit of the tornado forecast, maybe just a little bit more of confidence in that forecast for your tornado forecast. Max hail size, going to be probably sitting at baseballs. I think it's going to be isolated mostly to that Great Basin region. So let's look at that hail forecast for today. Again, I kind of expanded this out preemptively, thinking that they would push. I didn't think they were going to make it go all the way to Billings, though. So we got Rapid City. Billings, I think, is the best place to see big hailstones. We got kind of two different areas that we're watching. Up here in the Great Basin, where I think the storms will be more widespread. But the largest hail is going to form right along the initiation line for these storms from about Rapid City down to almost Amarillo. So biggest hail in this region right here, and then the most hail in this region right here. That's where I think we're going to be seeing it. Meanwhile, out here, we could see maybe some development of some small hail up to $0.50, maybe into ping pong size region as we get into the rest of this afternoon. But again, biggest hail is going to be in that orange shaded area, the most hail up in the Great Basin for that hail forecast. Future radar, again, we're watching these two areas. This is what we're watching for the Mississippi River Valley, kind of the Missouri River Valley as well. These storms already ongoing. Still going to be watching an initiation of these storms. Again, pockets of these storms filing in across Billings and into Rapid City as we get into this afternoon. This is 7:30 right here Central Time, so about 6:30 Mountain Time for this area in Montana. More of these storms will continue to linger as we get into that Friday evening, probably filing into a line. That's when that hail threat begins to fall. Your wind threat really rises later in the evening. Well, later, your wind threat increases as you get into the evening. So we get into that Saturday morning again, watching for those storms to stay around, kind of giving us more of that rain and wind threat. So here's these storms that are currently going on across about St. Louis down toward Memphis. We can see redevelopment trying to pop in behind these storms. If we can get enough of clearing, we could see redevelopment of these storms across southern Missouri from about St. Louis down to Springfield. So I-44 is probably going to be a little busy come this afternoon. could stretch all the way down to Oklahoma City again. We're still watching for the possibility of storms in the OKC region. It's just your best threat is going to stay from about that Tulsa, maybe almost down to Muskogee line, stretching all the way up into Springfield and into St. Louis and beyond as well. So these storms could have all hazards risk, though most of this is going to be expected to be wind. Seeing these storms filing into a line pretty quickly. So Tulsa, you missed out on those storms just a little bit yesterday, so maybe today will be your best chance to get some of those storms over in Tulsa. Let's move on to what we're looking at for our significant hail model. Again, two areas that we're watching up in the Great Basin and Northern Plains. This area where we're seeing these much darker colors, that's where I think we'll have our best chance for very large hail. The colors are, sitting in there close to the yellow, maybe some oranges splotching in there a little bit, but the storms are a lot more prevalent up here in Montana. So I think the chance of us getting a higher volume of, I don't want to say small hail, just, an inch, quarter, $half sized hail. Meanwhile, as we get toward Rapid City and just east of Denver, I think that's where we get some of the larger hail, possibly to golf balls, maybe isolated baseball here or there as we get into that Thursday. So let's overlay our radar real quick. We can see again, storms starting to initiate across Montana, much more widespread over toward Montana, but look at just like a spot. It's just the very isolated storms, just really where those caps do break is where we're going to see those big hailstones for that very, very quick time that these storms do fire up, because more than likely they will start filing to a line by the time we get to 7, 8 o'clock Central Time. Although this models really want to keep them separated out, though. These are like little individual MCSs, so they'll still have a difficult time keeping that hail threat as we get into the overnight. But again, could still see some of those, the hailstones trying to form in. I think Oklahoma City is going to be staying away from most of the hail risks as we get into that Friday. So more than likely, it's going to be almost a Great Basin and Northern Plains deal. Hail forecast for tomorrow, again, staying up in the north for your best chance to see hail. I think our hail size will overall be a little bit smaller, but I think the best chance to get that hail is going to be in the Great Basin. Small hail risk across parts of Omaha, St. Louis, down to Nashville, maybe even stretching all the way toward Knoxville. Could be seeing that possibility. Moving up north, again, best chances to see those storms. Billings, you're included in it. Bismarck, Rapid City, Pierre, you're all in this risk right here. Even Glendive, you're also included in that hail risk for tomorrow. Again, maybe up to $half. Could see a golf ball here or there, but it's going to be a little bit harder to get these storms come Saturday. Wind forecast, a pretty widespread area of these storms, kind of the same thing as your hail. Best chance I think is going to be over toward Bismarck, Rapid City, Billings, Glendive, Pierre, all these areas in north the Dakotas and parts of eastern Montana. I think that's going to be the best place to get the hail. Tornado forecast, a little more isolated into just a few areas of the Dakotas, maybe stretching down almost to North Platte into Nebraska. Meanwhile, you're also looking at Springfield, maybe stretching almost to Cape Girardeau. I've included Poplar Bluff here, but doesn't quite make it to Cape Girardeau. That tornado risk does for tomorrow. So a little bit backing off a smidge on that hail and wind and tornado forecast for your Saturday, but still the threat is absolutely there. Now we're talking about this big pattern change, but you're like, hey, why? It's nice outside. It's not even hot at all. Well, high pressure is building. We can already feel it. By the time we get into our Saturday, temperature is already going to be starting to get pulled up. The warm air from the south is getting pulled into those regions, which is kind of spurring these storm chances for your Saturday. But as we get into our Sunday, there's that wraparound. And then by the time we get into our Monday and Tuesday, the entirety of the eastern part of the country is far, far above normal with those temperatures. And it's just going to stay that way for the foreseeable future, at least. This high pressure looks like it wants to dig itself in and not really move anywhere as we get into the late week. So look at those future temperatures for Saturday. Oklahoma City, 94, Dallas, 99, El Paso in the triple digits, Kansas City at 85, even Rapid City. All the way up in Rapid City. I've been to Rapid City. It's not that hot during the summer. It's like 70s, maybe some low 80s every now and then. So that is really hot for Rapid City. And it's just going to stay that way as we get into our Sunday. I mean, things are going to be getting really aggressively hot. Oklahoma City, 98 degrees. Chicago, 93. Minneapolis, 100? I mean, I could believe it, but, maybe stretching those 100-degree temperatures might be a little bit on the tough side. But all the way across the eastern seaboard, it's just going to stay hot and probably humid as well. It's just going to be it's summer, but this is also really, really aggressive temperatures that are going to be moving their way through the eastern part of the country. I guess if you're in the northwestern part of the country, Boise at 75. I think there was a winter storm watch for some parts of Idaho and Montana yesterday, which that caught me by surprise. I mean, look at those temperatures already in the 30s and 40s for some mornings, so it's possible. Future radar, again, watching these clusters of storms moving their way out. We could see more redevelopment as we get into our Saturday. Again, lower chance for those storms, but Saturday we could see redevelopment of an all hazards risk up there in parts of the Great Basin. Continuing as we head into the afternoon, there's those storms, and they're just going to stay up there as we get into our Monday and Tuesday. But look again, this area of large clockwise rotation, that is that high pressure that is just parked itself, and it's going to stay there for, like I said before, the foreseeable future. It's just going to be hot and dry. We could see some showers here and there. Maybe a rumble of thunder could be possible. I mean, a severe storm, a pop-up severe storm, but when we're talking about large, complex, severe, complex is really the best way to say it, it's just not going to happen as we get into our extended forecast across the eastern seaboard. Again, maybe the eastern 3/4 of the country far above normal as we get into our July forecast. This does include July 4th, so if you're pretty much east of the Rockies, be ready for probably hopefully near a pool for your 4th of July. Meanwhile, if you're over on the eastern seaboard or western seaboard, it's going to be much cooler for your July. John, do we have any questions so far? None whatsoever. If you have any questions with the forecast, we can absolutely get those done for you. Rain forecast, a little bit more widespread, more of these storms still lingering about across the northern plains. Of course, you know, when do they not have rain in Seattle? That's kind of a joke there. Could see some more of this Gulf moisture pushing through. Again, if this if this high pressure sits right here, that could still filter in some of that Gulf moisture into Louisiana and Texas. So it's absolutely possible to see those. If you haven't just caught it, this is the new update for our severe weather outlook. We've got a slight risk, that 2 out of 5 stretching from Billings all the way down to almost Lamar. Also, we're sitting with another slight risk stretching again from just about Muskogee all the way to trying to get into Lexington, Kentucky, and a small little slight risk mainly driven by wind out toward parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and I think I see a little bit of Maine in there. Yeah, Maine and a slight risk in June. That's not expected. Getting to our Saturday tomorrow, again, that best chance for severe weather is going to be up here, up toward the Great Basin region, Montana, the Dakotas. That's your best risk over there, and you could see some more storms developing over toward the Virginias and North Carolina as well. And then once we get into Sunday, it's all northern plains by that point in time. Could see them trying to stretch over to Lake Superior, but it's just going to be there, and it's only going to stay there as we get into our next week. The best chances for severe weather will be in the Dakotas and all the way into Minnesota. It's going to be a hot one everywhere else. So that's your forecast. If we don't have any more questions, you can catch us on all of our social media platforms. We're obviously on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of those. You're probably watching us on one of those right now. And if you are interested in getting a hail map, you can either get a hold of us on 855-334-4245 or email us, or just go to our website and get a nice little preview of some of those weather maps if you're interested in getting a weather map. So we're going to be wrapping it up here, guys. If you don't have any more questions, if you do have any questions, actually, you know, leave us a comment on one of our posts on any of our social medias. We'll be able to get to you pretty quickly. So we're going to be watching these storms pretty closely. I don't expect we're probably going to have to go live, but if we do see one, maybe trying to go through Rapid City, maybe trying to go through Billings or something like that, we will be going live. More than likely won't be doing any of this noon show for our weekend, but if we do see an enhanced risk for that severe weather, we probably will be giving you at least some kind of update on the noon show, but we'll at least see you on a Monday for sure. Probably going to be 15 degrees warmer by the time we get here to on Monday, so it's not something I'm looking forward to, though I know others are looking forward to much warmer. I'm talking to you, John. But again, hope you guys have a good rest of your Friday. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you back at least on your Monday, same time, same place, right here in HailTrace.